Hello there. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm glad to be here with you. Sorry to keep you waiting. I had a couple things I needed to get done before we got started here today. So I hope everyone's doing great. Let me boost my brightness a little bit. Where is that? Here we go. I usually mess with that. Does that not seem to be doing anything at all? It's already all the way up. All right. So let's see. Let me start at the top here and say hello to some of you. Nell, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Bakul, I'm glad you're here. Good morning. Krasimir says, hi, Loren. What's the optimal level of hydration for the body? How to measure it? Those are good questions. I believe that our lean tissue should be about 80% water. We've actually revised recently the formula that we use to determine what that is. And because of that, we don't have a lot of data with the new formula. The new formula is a little bit more accurate. The old formula we used, I knew was an estimate, and it worked pretty well for people who were relatively lean. But the more excess body fat somebody had, the further off it was. And so we've worked to correct that. But I don't have a lot of experience. What happens with the new formula is that for most people, it's going to reduce their measured hydration level a little bit. And so I still think that we should be approaching 80% lean tissue. So your lean tissue should be 80% water. Body fat's around 10% water. That means ideally, if we're carrying a little bit of body fat, we're going to be, close to 80%. Close to 80%, something like that. We'd be 100% hydrated with 80% of our lean tissue in water, around that range. How to measure that is you need a good bioimpedance device. Inexpensive ones are often wildly inaccurate, but you want something that's good. We use a device that's about $500 when we bought it. And then you need to know how to actually correct for body fat, because body fat will alter that dramatically. What these devices do is they give you a percentage of your mass, which is water. So if body fat, because body fat contains almost no water, if you've got someone who is 400 pounds, obviously mostly body fat in most cases, a 400-pound person, their percentage of mass, which is water, is going to be very low because fat contains almost no water. Okay, so that number is not really very useful by itself. The percentage, what the bioimpedance devices give you doesn't tell you very much. So I worked out many years ago how to adapt for that, and then realized, and it was always, I knew when we did it, it was a shorthand. It was an estimate. I figured we're comparing apples to apples. It's close enough. The problem is that the more body fat somebody has, the further off it's going to be from what's truly accurate. And so we've revised that. But without having that, it's not something I can tell you right here, right now. Anyway, Dragon Gamer Kid, great summer morning. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are, each of you. Would you be more vulnerable to carnivore animals because they can sense you don't eat meat? More vulnerable to carnivores. Are carnivores more likely to attack you? Well, it's possible. I don't know if it's because they can sense you don't eat meat, or if it's because, maybe it's the same thing, because maybe they can sense that you're less toxic. Maybe you're more attractive to them. Now, having said that, having traveled all over the world, I've never been attacked except for being bitten by a snake. The most poisonous snake, one of the most poisonous snakes here in Central America. And that was 10 or so years ago. You can still see the two holes where the fangs went into my heel, my right heel. Aside from that, and being bitten by occasionally by a poisonous or carnivorous ant, other insects, I've never had any issues. It's not something I'd worry too much about. And it's theoretical. I don't really know what the answer is. Hey, Peter, good to see you. I got your email. Super crazy busy. I got back here late yesterday afternoon. I had to go. I was in town to go to the market, the bank, etc. And it's it's about 40 minutes, 45 minutes each way to the bigger town to us, and didn't get back here until fairly late, and then was catching up on a lot of things, including the many people I'm currently guiding through the process via Skype. I had some things I needed to do there, but got your message. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have some super chats here. I'm going to jump to those. If I miss the rest of you, I don't get a chance to wish everyone a good morning. Maybe we don't have too many more. Maybe I'll just go down the list that's currently here. Marianne, good to see you from Charleston, South Carolina, I guess. MC, NYOB Zoo, Hmong language. Okay, Hmong from Southeast Asia. Nice to see you here. I'm glad you're with us. Friendly greets, Simon. Good to see you. The Schornf, the Schnorf. Okay. Hello, Loren. Best way to donate with the least amount of merchant fees, PayPal, order a massage. Well, unfortunately, we no longer have PayPal. I won't go into the whole thing, but PayPal shut us down with no warning in late November, seized all of our funds, and still have them more than 7 months later. Be careful if you use PayPal. Don't keep money in the account. I made a big mistake and had a lot of money. I had two big, I guess I'm going to tell you the story, had two big real estate contracts we were supposed to have made big payments on, and had the money waiting for that. They were February and March, and this was late November. And they seized the money. We never got it back. They say it up front. They were going to hold it for chargebacks, etc. They only let you do that for 3 months. It's now more than 7 months. So they won't even respond to my emails. I don't know what to do. I mean, I guess I'm going to have to get a lawyer. I hate going there. I hate wasting the money, and I hate having to go that route. It's just absurd. And of course, PayPal has a lot of money, including all my money, so they can easily defend themselves. I don't really know what to do. But anyway, in the meantime, there's no PayPal. You can go onto our website and buy something. We use Stripe now as the payment gateway. It's pretty invisible, and it's easy to use, and completely secure. You can do that. If you can't, I guess you're asking because you can't make a payment here. So if you're in Israel and some other places, for some reason, Super Chat doesn't work there. We will have our Patreon page up hopefully in the next couple days. This is something was started a couple months ago, and then I dropped the ball, frankly, just so busy. But that's going to happen very soon. So that will be another possibility very soon. Hello there, Kisorat. Good to see you. Is it possible to create mucoid plaque on a raw vegan diet if it's done incorrectly? Sure. It probably is. I mean, first of all, nuts and seeds are heavy and hard to move and don't contain much water when they're consumed, or so much fiber. And so, yeah, that can still get stuck. I mean, there's no question about it. A raw vegan diet, as you already know, having spent some time with us here, ideally fruit and soft, tender leaves, not going to happen. You're not going to be, if you're eating fresh fruit, high water, especially high water, but even any fruit, any fresh fruit, and simple salads, soft, tender, leafy greens, it'd be very hard to create that mucoid plaque. If you're doing anything else, yeah, it could happen. No question about it. All right, we have a lot more comments now, so let me just go to the super chats. Sorry, everybody, if I missed you otherwise. Stephanie Poliche, thank you so much. Stephanie has said good morning and made a contribution. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ian with many fours. Is that 6? 5? Looks like 5 fours. Ian has made a 10-pound donation and said, my systolic and diastolic varies by up to 10 points within minutes. I thought it was the machine, so bought 2 good quality bicep ones, but get the same 115/65 and 125/75 variations. Is this normal? Yeah, it is. When I'm working with somebody via Skype or here, we try to get measurements when someone has not moved at all. No speaking, no movement, not even the slightest movement. I mean, you really don't want to get up or change positions, because it happens sometimes. But any movement will affect your pressure. Your pressure is constantly changing. All right, we're trying to get a snapshot of something which is in movement all the time. That's difficult to do, and more difficult, if you're moving your body. I mean, it's going to change anyway from moment to moment, because it's just something that's always shifting. Every time the heart beats, the pressure goes up, right? And then it comes back down, and then it goes back up, and then it comes back down. So it's this constant cycle, and we're trying to get a snapshot to see what's the high and low, but it's always changing. And it may well be that there are specific issues that can have it vary more than others, but the 10-point variation, I wouldn't worry too much about. Honestly, I'm more concerned about the difference between those two numbers. And in your case, they're exactly the same with these two readings. They should be, when it's 125, it should be 3 points higher, the difference, than when it's 115. The spread should be 3 points higher. It's not. It's not the end of the world. I mean, that's close enough that you're still within a decent range. So yes, it's going to vary all the time. And you want to be sure that when you take it, there's the least amount of movement between readings, and you've got everything in the right position. You don't change your arm position. If you're using a bicep cuff, the collection point should be at heart level, okay? Because if I've got my arm up in the air, my pressure is going to be too low. And if I've got my arm way down below me, like say I'm laying on a couch and my arm is hanging off the edge of the couch, and I measure it there, if it's this far below my heart, the pressure is going to be much higher than it would be if it was at heart level. So ideally, I'm sitting here at my desk. It's normal desk height, it's like a table. If you sit at like a kitchen table or a desk and have your arm on the table, for most people, it's going to be pretty close to being right at heart level. Okay. Also has to be tight enough, or it's going to vary. So there's a little bit to do with knowing how to do it, but mostly it's simply about not moving, and then about realizing there will be some variation. No worries there. That's okay. Okay. Mariam has made an $11.11 donation. Thank you so much, Mariam. I appreciate that. I love the number. Okay. So, there's a comment from someone. I can't read your name. I apologize. I'm going to take a wild guess that it's either Chinese or Japanese. It's obviously an Asian language with the pictographic letters, and I don't know how to read that. You're probably not surprised to hear that. Very kind comment. Says, you look younger every single day. Amazing. I want to reverse aging just like you. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I don't know that that's completely true, but I appreciate your perception of it anyway, your kind comments. The fact is, it's funny. There's someone who's been lately commenting on my YouTube videos and telling me how I don't look young, etc. I mean, you get those kinds of comments all the time. Most people that meet me in person think I look pretty good for a guy that's nearly 60 years old. You can probably see my skin is still quite soft and elastic, almost unlined, not completely, but nearly unlined. I still have great muscle tone. I'm still quite lean. I still have better than 20/20 vision. We can, personally, I have to say that I'm not too concerned about my appearance. People tell me all the time, I'd look younger if I shaved my beard off. Don't really care. I like the beard. I may get tired of it at some point. It has come and gone over the years. I first grew a beard when I left the Air Force Academy. Now imagine, I don't know about you, for the guys, maybe imagine ladies, shaving your legs twice a day, guys shaving your face twice a day. My beard grew so fast when I was 18, 19, and it was black. It was very apparent that I sometimes had to shave twice a day when I was in the military, because they don't want to see any shadow on your face. You're supposed to be completely clean shaven. And so if we had any kind of a military formation in the afternoon, I had to shave a second time that day. And when I left there, I thought, that's it. I'm not shaving anymore. And I didn't for a while. Then I got tired of it and shaved it off. Then I grew it back and then I shaved it off. And maybe some of you guys can relate. For the time being, I like it. It's easier than shaving and doesn't require so much maintenance. And it's probably going to stay. But anyway, thank you so much for your comments. Mariam says, what are your thoughts on breath work? I feel it puts me in the mode that my body fixes itself. Do you think the breathwork practice is as effective as fasting when it comes to healing? No, There's no question. I mean, let's be clear, first of all, that in order to feel and function as well as we possibly can, we need to meet all of the body's needs. Okay. It's not that we can select some and not others. So I know some people think that that's the case. For instance, I often hear from people, they'll say, well, I'm going to eat optimally, but I don't want to exercise. I know people who eat optimally but never exercise. They're never going to be as healthy as they would be if they were physically active. Our amazing bodies need to move, right? We should be moving them. We should be using them. If you, like me, are too busy to be as physically active as you'd like, I mean, I would love to spend 2 hours a day body surfing if there are waves. I'd love to go for a long mountain bike ride every day and a long hike in the woods. And I'll typically spend at least 15 to 20 minutes hiking my gardens, but that's not very much. I'm well aware. I mean, some people might think that's being active. It's not, from my perspective. I like to be very active. What I'll do though is I'll do some physical exercise. So you can do full body weight squats, and I don't usually use the chair because when I come down, the seat is too high. I need more space. But in the kitchen, I have an L-shaped countertop in our main kitchen. So I'll go in there between calls and I'll knock out a set of 10 or more full body weight dips. I'll jump down on the floor. You can see right there, actually, those are push-up stands that allow me to do push-ups and come down even lower. So, so my face, my nose, my chest doesn't hit the floor first. With the stands, I can actually come down even lower because I've got this extra height off the floor. But I'm physically active almost every single day. I'm exercising. And if you don't have time to get out there and play the way you might like to, then at least be doing some exercise on a consistent basis. But, it's about meeting all the body's needs. And so breathing properly is critically important. And for many of us maybe grew up not breathing so well. So if you need to learn, I mean, once you have embodied breathing well, you probably won't get so much benefit from breathing practices if you're breathing well all the time. Breathing practices are going to be most beneficial for those people who aren't breathing so well on an ongoing basis. Okay. But obviously, breathing as well as you can makes a huge difference. If your body's not properly oxygenated, you have a problem. Okay? And so breathing well is critically important. But there's nothing when you're fasting, you still should be breathing well. So it's not like we're choosing one or the other. I mean, you can just do breathing practices without fasting. Will you get as much benefit as with healing as via fasting? No, absolutely not. It doesn't matter what else you're doing. If you're eating, you are unlikely to come close to getting the same benefits as you would via fasting. Fasting is just so incredibly powerful when it's done correctly. Okay. But yes, I mean, when fasting, you want to be resting, reclining. You're right, reclining most of the time. Laying down is difficult to do all the time for most people because most people need to get a fair amount of water in, and it's hard to do while you're lying down. But you can sit reclining and sip water. And you probably, again, if you don't already have excellent breathing, it's a good time to practice various breathing techniques to improve your breathing. Okay? But yeah, there's no question that fasting, is the most powerful thing you can do. You still need to be breathing and breathing well while fasting. Okay? Eric, hello, Eric. How are you? Eric says, I know the old formula. I'm very interested in the new formula. Add back 10% of fat to get water weight. Add back 10% of fat to get water weight. No. What we're doing is we are subtracting 10% because theoretically the water mass includes all the water in your body, lean tissue, not the stuff you're holding in your intestines, because that's not cellular water, not the edema that people have if they eat salt, processed foods. That's not cellular water, but the water in your fat is. So we have to eliminate the water, which is equivalent to 10% of your body fat weight, the mass of your fat. 10% of that is water. We subtract that from the overall water weight, where instead of pretending that all the water in your body is in your lean tissue, it's not. So we're just subtracting out that portion. Now, for someone who is in the 5 to 10% body fat range, it will have a minor impact on your numbers. For someone who's in the 50 to 75% body fat range, that the old way of doing it, pretending that all the water in that fat, even though it's only 10% water, if your body's 75% fat, that's a lot of mass. And now that's going to have a significant effect on what we're seeing. Okay, hope that makes sense. All right, Sherry, I think snakes leave vegans alone. Well, didn't leave me alone. I mean, most of the time, I don't know if there's any, I'm not sure if you're kidding or if this is real. I really don't know anything about that. It's entirely possible, as the question asked, that as a vegan, maybe animals sometimes know. I mean, somehow know. I mean, I'll tell you something I found, and I found this on many occasions, that animals seem to be very comfortable with me, much more than you would expect them to be. And I'll give you some examples. Chipmunks, which are usually pretty skittish, used to come up to me, like right up to me. Deer would not run away the way they normally would do, not as much. I mean, I was able to get much closer than you would expect because, again, deer tend to keep their distance from people. I've had butterflies on many occasions. There was one occasion, a famous story, where I had a group of people out doing a wild edible plant walk. I wasn't the expert. We had gone to this guy's parents' farm, where he would lead these tours around the farm and demonstrate all the wild edible plants there. And when we went to finish the tour, there was like a debrief, a talk about what was going on, what we had seen, etc. A butterfly landed on me, stayed on me, went from here to my hand, to wherever. But this same butterfly stayed on my body for more than an hour. And then finally, when I was getting in my car to drive away, he was actually on my shoulders. I got into my car, and before I closed the door, he flew off. But he stayed on my body for more than an hour. That was amazing. Another situation I recall is going to buy a piece of used furniture, secondhand furniture, back when I was still in the U.S. I had, found something. I was looking for a bookcase, and I found something online or in the newspaper. Who remembers? This is a while back. It might have been a newspaper or magazine. Called the woman. We agreed that I would come take a look and buy it if I liked it. And when I walked in, I walked into her living room. She opened the door and invited me in. We go into her living room to show me the unit, and a quarter of the living room was taken up by this massive cat tower. These things that have different levels and stations and, carpeted places for them to scratch on and to sit in and, lie in. And it was this giant thing. It took up a quarter of the living room. It was quite large. And I said to her, "Looks like you like cats. It looks like you have a bunch of cats." And she said, "Yeah, I think she had 3 or 4. She said, but you probably won't see them because they don't like other people. They stay away from people." And just as she said that, 2 or 3 cats walked in the room and started rubbing up against my legs. And she was astonished. She said, "This never happens." So, I've always thought, because I've had so many experiences like this with other people's animals and even with wild animals, I thought there must be something about my energy. I don't know if it's my diet. I know some people who are vegans who are still kind of emotionally violent. But I think, maybe it's the fact that in addition to eating the way I eat, I've also been a meditator now for 44 years, 45 years, 44 or 45 years, something like that, over 40 years. So in other words, most of the time, pretty calm, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. Maybe that's part of it too. There's something that they're definitely picking up on. There's no question about it. This doesn't happen to everyone. So maybe that's part of it. But I was bitten, even though I'd been raw vegan for many years at that point, and raw vegan also for various years. Eric says 10% of non-lean weight equals extra water weight given by scale in its water percentage number. Essentially, something like that. Yeah, I think I've already explained it. David Kudnoff has made a donation. Thank you so much, David. I really, really appreciate this. Everything's relative. David is down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and has made a 1,000 Argentinian peso donation. Now, the Argentinian peso, unfortunately, is worth much less than it was 3 years ago. It's worth a third of what it was when I was there on my first or second visit, David and David, I should say. And it makes it difficult for people in Buenos Aires because in Argentina, because the peso has lost so much value. And so it's very, very generous to make a donation like this when your currency has less value. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Michael says, hey, Loren, good morning, sir. Love as always. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. MC Monsong, of course. Good to see you. Monsong, I'd like to speak with you. So let's do me a favor if you can. Shoot me a message. I think we're connected via Messenger, maybe email as well. And let's schedule that time to speak, okay? SC, correct. Yes, South Carolina, right. Beautiful town. Okay, JJRU, why didn't I get a notification? I don't know. I don't know why you didn't get a notification. I did plan this not so far in advance, but I think I put a notice up maybe 35 or 40 minutes before I went live. So sorry you missed that. Glad you're here anyway. You didn't miss too much. Barut, hello there. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Jauschnik, so it looks like you're from Eastern Europe. I think we might have talked about this before. It looks like an Eastern European name. Sergio Hernandez. Morning, Loren. Best way to deal with a snake bite? Well, it depends on the situation. I'm certainly not going to encourage everyone to do what I did, and I'm not sure that I would do what I did in a different circumstance. But in this case, I was bitten by a snake which kills people, and I actually got pretty freaked out and drove down to a 24-hour emergency care facility, but left my place so quickly, it didn't occur to me because I always kept my keys in my pocket. Back then, my apartment's in the main building. There, my apartment was outside of our complex. Actually, we ran out of space as we grew, and I built a 2-car garage, and I went back in and took most of the garage space. Actually, there was no space for cars when I was done. I left some storage space, but took the vast majority of that space and created a little tiny efficiency apartment, which I later added on to. And so because it was outside of the main building, it was entirely possible for someone to wander down and go into my apartment without anyone ever seeing them. And so I kept the door locked. Here, my door is usually open, but I kept the door locked there. And so I kept my keys in my pocket because I wanted to go home. I needed my key to get in. And so this happened. I had my keys in my pocket, which included my car keys. I jumped in my car and I drove down to the bottom of the mountain to go to this place, 20 or 30 kilometers away. And I had forgotten to pick up my wallet, so I had no way to pay. And we were talking about, the doctor was talking about anti-venom, and ultimately had no way to pay. And I said, what should I do? And he said, well, I have to check with the administrator, see if we can treat you. But he said, just go home, you'll be fine. And it was probably stupid advice, given that I knew. I mean, he didn't believe I'd been bitten by this most poisonous snake, because he said, if that's what it was, you'd have trouble breathing, your entire leg would be swollen by now. My foot was swollen. I was still breathing. I walked and drove myself down there. And he just couldn't believe it was what it was. He took my vital signs, and I was looking over his shoulder at the machine. I could see the blood pressure and pulse. And I said, wow, that's high. And he turns around, he looks at me and he says, you're 50. That's normal. Okay, this was 9 years ago, actually the end of July, early August, 9 years ago. And he said, that's perfectly fine. I said, no, that's 20% higher than my normal numbers. Normally my blood pressure is very healthy. My pulse is typically around 50. My pulse was in the 60s, much higher than it would normally be. My blood pressure was much higher than it would normally be. And he couldn't believe I'd been bitten by this snake. but I knew exactly what it was. I actually had the guide. I mean, I went back to the office and grabbed the guide. The snake was still there where I had encountered it. I had a flashlight. It happened at 7 o'clock at night when it's completely dark here. But I could easily identify this was a snake that I was familiar with because it was quite dangerous, and we would see them every once in a while. In any case, I fasted. You might want to go get anti-venom to be completely safe. I wound up fasting and sweated my butt off all night. My body was obviously dealing with this. This is an immune response, right? My body was dealing with the out-processing this. My heart was racing. It sped up. I was in pain. My foot hurt, and it was swollen for sure. But by the next morning, my vital signs were back to normal. My foot was still swollen. It was still painful. I had crutches I got around on. I fasted for just a week or 8 days, and I probably would have kept going. But what happened was I had a lecture tour coming up 2 weeks after this happened. And I knew, I needed to spend some time eating before traveling. And I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm very lean. And so I was fine, but I know that when I get on a stage, the average person looks at my lean face and says, oh, that guy's skinny. And I was cognizant of the fact that if I fasted for 10 or 11 days, my face would look even leaner. That's all the time I really had was maybe 11 days to fast. But I fasted for 7 or 8. There was no pain. There was no swelling. Everything was perfectly back to normal. And that was it for me. Again, I'm not sure I'd necessarily recommend doing that. At the time this had happened, I'd already fasted 36 times. I'd already been living on a close to perfect diet for 20 years at that point, or close to 20 years. So, how my body responded to that might be different than how the average person's body would respond to that. How your body might respond to that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the same thing. Okay, Miriam, took out your message and made a 111 contribution, but retracted the message. Let me see. Did you leave another message? Where do you get your wisdom? Do you get occasionally connected to higher source? Well, yeah. I'd like to believe. It's a great question. I'm really, really glad you asked that, Mariam, because I actually believe that we're kind of like a computer. Okay, you buy a computer, right, and you set it up, and it's got some stuff loaded on it. So there's already some things there, some information, etc. But if you have an internet connection, you're connected to virtually all the information in the world, right? Some of it you have to pay for, some of it's available for free, but we're connected to this infinite amount of information when we have an internet connection. This is how we have people writing all over the world. I believe that when our bodies are clean and we're vibrating at the highest level, we are connected to source. Okay, we are connected to source. And so I do feel like I get these downloads. I can't explain that. Some of you here might think that's nonsense. Maybe. I don't know. I believe that's what happens. But wisdom, I think, is born of experience. I'm 59 years old. I've been around the sun many times now. I have a lot of experience with health. I've worked with more than 12,000 people. I've guided thousands of people through fasts averaging 26 days. This isn't like True North 10 or 11 day fasts or their typical fare there. That's what most people are doing. Here, our fasts are usually much longer. I have a lot of experience taking people to an amazingly high level of health and vitality. And so there are many things I'm sure I know nothing about. But, one of the things about cultivating wisdom is it's really about how we look at things. It requires intelligence. It requires some experience, but it requires a perspective and I think that carries over to everything. So I'd like to, I'll be the first person to tell you, if you ask me something about astrophysics, I'm going to probably tell you I don't really know much about that. If you ask me something I know nothing about, I'm quite clear about what my own limitations are. And that's part of being wise as well, I think, is knowing where we're out of our depth. Ask me about something I know nothing about, I'm going to tell you I'm the wrong person to ask. I might have an opinion on that, Someone once asked me at a live event at a festival where I was speaking. I did a talk called, well, I don't remember what it was called. I think it might have been called Frequently Asked Questions. I was going to talk about some of the most common questions I got. And I took a bunch of questions. And someone said to me, Loren, do you have an opinion on, I don't even remember what it was. And I said, lucky for you, I have an opinion on everything. Who doesn't? Okay. But I'd like to think that I'm smart enough or perhaps wise enough to know where my opinion is based on nothing. I mean, the truth is, where I really have no information, I tend to have no opinion. I will say, I really don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that. But anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment. Okay, let me go back up. Barut says, Loren, what do you think about iron and omega-3 deficiencies? Well, what do I think about them? They're real. They happen. They're problematic. In most cases, they're happening because the body's out of balance. So, I mean, obviously, if you eat a completely deficient diet, you're going to have problems. But it's relatively easy to get the omega fatty acids we need and the iron we need eating fruits and leafy greens. Okay, I don't recommend people eat only fruit. There are very few fruits that are going to give you some of the nutrients we need. Most people are going to do much better by including some leafy greens into their diet. How much you need varies from person to person. I would encourage you to try to become detached from any ego around what that should be. Okay, what you think that should be. So, for me, it's not ego driven, but I'm at, now, I mean, I'll eat leafy greens maybe a couple times a week. That's what my body wants. There are people that probably need leafy greens every day. In fact, I mean, most of my clients, I recommend they eat them every day after fasting. And most people feel really good when they do that. Not right away, but later on in their feeding process. Most people seem to benefit from that, but eventually get to the point where they don't want them every day anymore. And it's amazing. I mean, like initially they're like, yes, I want all the greens I can get. I think people are feeling that way because they actually need them. And then they come to a point where they simply don't need them that way anymore. Okay. When that's the case, you're better off not eating them if as often when you don't need them. Okay. You want to eat what your body needs. Ideally, exactly what it is that it's calling for when it's clean enough that you can listen to its messages. Okay. All right. Veronica says, good morning and happy Friday. Good morning and happy Friday to you, Veronica. By the way, I've always loved the name Veronica. It's a beautiful name. Okay. Trifland TV says, what are your thoughts on juice fasting? Okay, so I've got videos talking about this if you want more information. I'll just, without getting into too much detail here, I'll tell you that I'm not a fan of juice fasting. I used to be. Before I discovered water fasting, I did lots of juice fasting. My longest juice fast was my last one. It was 120 days. And I did a lot of juice fasting for years before that. So it's not like I don't know anything about this. I have quite a bit of experience with this. But what I realized over time is that juices are fragmented, largely oxidized, overly concentrated. What am I forgetting? I've got, let's see, largely overly concentrated, largely oxidized, fragmented, imbalanced, and unnatural substances. And the body interacts with them as it interacts with supplements. When we are taking in, because certain nutrients like vitamin C is highly unstable, we start with this perfect proportion, and then we wind up running these things through a juicer, we wind up with something that's very different than that. And so now we have a lot of this and none of this. Okay, this is vitamin C. Vitamin C is all destroyed. And we have a lot of something else over here. Now, instead, those two things need to be in relation to each other, but now we've created something very different. When that happens, we're imbalancing the body. And just as there are multiple studies now that show that taking supplements actually results in higher rates of disease. I mean, we need to get our needs met, but we should be getting our needs met by eating properly. Every other species on the planet, think about this, 25 million species in nature, it's estimated, all get everything they need simply eating their food. Shouldn't we be able to get everything we need eating our food? Well, we do when we get the body clean and eat properly. Okay, so if you're, those people trying to live on a carnivore diet, completely absurd, crazy, ridiculous, harmful and dangerous and completely immoral, unethical diet, because we have no right to kill other animals if we don't need to, and we don't need to. These people are going to wind up in serious trouble. How are they going to get any vitamin C? There's no vitamin C in meat. Okay, we are obligated to consume vitamin C. Vitamin C is an essential nutrient because we don't have the ability to make it in our bodies the way that many animals do. Why is that? Well, it's because we're fruit eaters. So the other animals who can't make, there's only a few. There's a handful of animals that can't make vitamin C. They include the chimpanzees and bonobos. They include the fruit bats, right? These are animals that eat fruit. If we're meant to live primarily on fruit, we don't need to make vitamin C. There's some people that say, it's a genetic defect. No, it's not. Why would we need to make? It's like saying, well, it's a genetic defect that we can't make oxygen. We're meant to breathe. Okay, if we lived in some place where there was no oxygen, then we would need to make it, and that would be different. We'd have trouble if we couldn't do it. This isn't a defect. We don't need to make vitamin C because we're intended to consume tons of it. I looked just yesterday when I got a comment on this, the top 200 foods. I found a list of the 200 foods, and these are things available in the grocery store, with the highest amounts of vitamin C as a percentage of what's there. And with the exception of man-made drinks, like, juices and fruit-based drinks, not 100% juice, but often there's these drinks and some juices, and cruciferous vegetables, broccoli and kale, etc. And a few of those things, with the exception of those things and these man-made drinks, the highest vitamin C containing foods were virtually all fruits. Okay, so why would we need to make vitamin C when our bodies are intended to live almost exclusively on fruit? It's the meat eaters, the meatheads, who think, well, it's a genetic deficiency, we should be making vitamin C. No, of course you need to take it because you're eating a diet that never belonged in the human body. We don't need it. We don't need to make it, okay, because it's there for us, all right? It's there in ample quantity, and that's why we don't need to make it ourselves. Okay, hope that makes sense. So juices, not so good, okay? They're going to imbalance your body. You're going to do far better eating whole foods only. Matthias says, Loren, how long should I fast in order to heal from SIBO? And if you're not familiar, SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. You should probably be fasting at least 21 days or longer, but you should only ever do that with experienced guidance. Only. Okay? Only. You are very, very unlikely to succeed. I got a message yesterday, a guy that's been, for months, he's been talking about fasting, maybe a year, talking about fasting with me. Finally said, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm already fasting today. I want to start with you tomorrow. I said, okay. And by the way, I don't want to start much later than that. I want to start with people at the beginning of the process, not when they're already into it. Why? Because if they're already into it some ways, I've got to work much harder to help them correct the problems they've already created. Invariably, that's what happens, because invariably they've made lots of mistakes. Over and over again, this is what happens. So this guy, I get this message, and I'm out yesterday at the farmer's market and the bank, etc. So I've got my handy dandy cell phone, and I write back to him and say, as soon as I get back to my office, I will send you to the center. I will send you an invoice for the balance. So we're gonna start this process. By the time I get back, he said, "Oh, never mind. I had to break my fast." Not one day on his own. Now, lots of people have gone much longer than one day, and I'm sure you could go 21, 30 days without my help. The question is, would you get the benefits that you want? Would your body heal as much as possible? If you don't know what you're doing, the answer is no. And a lot of people hurt themselves. And I've helped a lot of people recover from problems they've created. Okay, and people actually die because they don't know what they're doing. It doesn't make any sense to do this on your own. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, don't do that. Plan on 21 to 30 days, but do it with guidance. I can guide you via Skype. There's a payment plan. It doesn't have to be terribly expensive. Email me, Loren at tanglewoodwellnesscenter.com. Okay, I see we're running out of time here. Dragon Gamer says, is 16 days a good option to remove mucoid plaque? No, it's not. It should be at least 21 days or longer. And again, it needs to be done properly with guidance. Okay, 16 days is not long enough for most people. Rodney says, hello, my name is Rodney. I knew that. And I'm new to water fasting. I have a question. Can water fasting help with my hip arthritis and groin pains? Absolutely. Fasting, the thing about fasting, Rodney, is it's not magic. It doesn't heal us. Okay, our bodies are self-healing. Healing's a biological process, so only the organism can heal the organism. What fasting does is it helps us get out of the organism's way. Processing food takes more energy than anything you do. Okay, being active takes energy. All the things that you're doing make it harder for, normally in life, make it harder for the body to heal. When we fast, that's what every species does. It lays down and stops eating to heal. Okay, fasting allows us to heal more rapidly than ever because we're simply getting out of the body's way, letting it have all of its energy for cleansing and healing. So anything that can heal will heal much more efficiently and much more effectively with fasting. But as you've just heard me say twice, it's got to be supervised to ensure that you're doing it correctly. Because if you're not doing it correctly, you are not going to get the same benefits. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Mariam says, where do you get your wisdom? Oh, I already saw that one. All right. Thanks, Mariam. Sergio Hernandez has made a $2 donation. So, Loren, what's the best way to deal with dandruff, hair health? Well, it's like everything else, Sergio. It's really all about having the body in balance. So if you have dandruff, your body is out of balance, and the best thing to do would be to fast and then to follow that with an optimal diet. Okay. Again, I'd be happy to help you if you'd like to create an amazing level of health where dandruff is not an issue, where there's no issues. Your body feels and functions as well as it possibly can. That's possible. Some of you have heard me say this before, but I'm now like 33 years without being sick a day. No headaches, no stomach aches, no colds, no flus, etc. Give your body the chance to really get clean, by fasting, and then keep making optimal choices. And it's amazing what happens. Okay, I hope that helps. Sherry's made a $5 donation and says, agree, both our energy and diet. Great book on the topic called Kinship with All of Life by J. Allen Boone. Thanks, Sherry, for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, this isn't my idea. I mean, it's my idea, but it's a lot of people's ideas. A lot of people understand that our bodies are self-healing organisms meant to heal, meant to function at an amazing level of health and vitality. So I work with people all the time, younger than me, who are falling apart. Why? Because they've made poor choices. Okay, now, I'm not saying that their genetic inheritance isn't a factor. It is a factor. According to Bruce Lipton and other epigeneticists, they would say, yeah, it's a factor. 2, 3, maybe 5% of what shows up is based on your DNA. Most of what shows up, most of how healthy we are, how vibrant we are, how good we feel is based on the choices we make. Okay, I can teach anyone willing to learn, who's open and coachable and teachable. I can teach you exactly how to meet all of your body's needs in a way that you will feel and function amazingly well every single day. That's what's possible, to feel and function better than you ever thought you could. And, for a long, long time. I don't know that we can maintain this forever. I think eventually we're going to go downhill, but I don't expect that to happen for a long time. I believe if I keep doing what I'm doing now, I should keep being fit and strong and healthy and vibrant, well into my 80s, maybe 90s. Okay, there are people who do that. That's the way they do it. Okay, so again, some people have an amazing genetic inheritance. Mine, I think, is more typical. It's just average, but we can certainly do it. That's what's meant to happen. We're meant to function at an amazingly high level of health and vitality, and virtually everyone can. Okay? I've got a couple more super chats, so I'm going to jump down and take those questions because I am running out of time. Maisha Ntongo has made a 1999 pound donation. Thank you, Maisha. I appreciate that. And said, hi, Loren, attempting to multitask listening and working. What are your views on the link between stress, negative emotions, and disease? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to point out to you that, I mean, listening and working, I understand very well. I do that all the time. It's been interesting over these last few months with all the videos, people putting out by the experts talking about the true facts about what's going on with this whole pandemic, this whole situation. I don't have time to simply dedicate 2 hours a day to watching videos, but I often have at least 2 hours a day worth of videos in my inbox from people that want to share this stuff with me because they know I'm on top of this. And I'm often doing the same thing. I'm listening to that while I'm answering emails. Am I missing some things? Sometimes if I'm like, oh, hang on, I think I missed something important, I'll go back and listen again. So I understand what you're saying. But the research is clear. No one multitasks well. The truth is no one really is doing this very well. When we think we're multitasking, what's actually happening is we are microtasking. We're focusing on one thing for a moment, then something else for a moment, and then one thing for a moment, and then something over here. And it's actually far less efficient than doing one thing at a time. So just having said all of that. So what are my thoughts, my views on the link between stress, negative emotions, and disease? Well, there's no question that these things are all linked. Let's look at the current situation. People are dying, they say, they believe, I'm not so sure, of a V. I'm not supposed to say the word, but they're dying of this virus. And what determines whether that happens or not? Well, what determines that is the strength of the body's immune function. Okay, how well does the body function with regard to immunity? Because we're encountering things all the time that don't belong, and the question is not are they there? Is the body capable of eliminating them, of getting rid of them, of healing itself? These are the questions. And that all comes back to the strength, the health, the vitality, the immunity of the body. Stress depletes excess stress. I mean, some stress is necessary to survive, but excess stress depletes our vitality and weakens the body's immune function. Okay? Negative emotions do exactly the same thing. So there's no question that this link is real and powerful. And you can take it another step. Some people believe that there's actually a direct correlation between suppressed negative emotions and specific diseases. So cancer, for instance, it's said appears only in the presence of suppressed anger. Is that true? I don't know. I don't have a way to measure that, but this is what some experts in the field say. I do believe that every physical disease starts with an emotional disease, that if we can get to the point where emotionally we are, perfectly balanced all the time, not something I've gotten to yet, although more all the time, but if we can get to that place, we can't get sick because our body's going to function as well as it possibly can. Okay, that's my belief on that. So definitely an important question and an important link. And there are people who are putting themselves in danger because they're choosing to walk around angry, etc. I mean, let me say this. It's been said that pain in life, I can't remember who said, pain in life is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Suffering is when we don't let go. We hold on to something. Now we're going to suffer. We're all going to experience pain. We're going to experience pain when relationships end, when people that we love die or leave us or, move out of our lives or whatever it is. These things are, for most of us, are going to be emotionally painful. And it's perfectly normal and healthy to experience sadness and pain, even anger and grief. These are natural, healthy emotions. The problem is when we don't let go of them. We want to experience them and let them go. And as they go, they'll dissipate of their own accord once we release them. Okay, but we need to be willing to experience them fully, because if we don't do that, we're keeping them in the body. We're suppressing them so we don't have to feel them, but they're still there somewhere. Okay, that's not helpful or useful in any way. Meisha has made a second donation of £9.99 and said, can stress alone lead to disease for even someone on an optimal diet? Any tips on stress management? It's a great question. I don't know how to answer your question. I don't know whether stress alone, for someone who's making perfect choices, if the stress alone can do that. I don't know. But I think it's fair to say that because stress always has a negative impact on our immune function and our vitality, it only makes sense to do what you can to deal with the stress on an ongoing basis. How do we do that? Well, I've already given you some tips. Meditation. Okay, if you don't have a meditation practice, start one. It's not hard to do. There's probably tons of tutorials online if you don't already know. You can take a course. I wound up nearly 30 years ago, 27 years ago, I studied and learned transcendental meditation. I'd already been meditating at that point for many years, but learned this new technique, very powerful. It's something I still use today and do regularly. And I think it's a very, very, I think it's been proven to have incredibly powerful beneficial effects. So meditation is a very powerful practice. Getting enough sleep is a tremendous way to reduce stress. Getting out in nature, exercising your body, okay, being physically active. All these things have been absolutely 100% proven to be effective at allowing you to reduce stress. And I think it's critically important that you do these things. Another thing to do is to simply look at your beliefs, examine your beliefs. Okay. They're crazy things. At the risk of possibly offending someone who might be here, I don't really care. Someone has been commenting on my videos and making some pretty rude comments. Said to me, it was actually, I think, last week's live broadcast. Someone commented later on, once the live is over and people can watch the video of it, someone commented and said, at the time, last week I had all my cats here with me, the 3 kittens. Today they're off running around somewhere. They left here just before I started, actually. They went out and climbed over the roof. But last week someone commented, "Oh, I love that you love cats." And someone else, this guy commented and said something like, "How can you support these murderers?" I'm like, what? Okay, cat, they're carnivores by nature. They're going to kill things. Can we blame them for doing that? I mean, do you hold the bear accountable for it? Is it a murder because it kills other things? That's just how it is. That's their nature. They actually need meat in order to survive. Okay, we don't need to do that. That's why, for me, there's ethical issues involved, right? To me, there's a moral dilemma, ethical question. Okay, what gives me the right to kill or harm another animal when I have no need to do that? I can eat fruit off of trees and pick lettuce without harming any other species, and that's my choice. That's my choice. You can make your own choice, but I believe there's a big difference. So we can look at what we believe. This guy's walking around angry because he believes all kinds of people are doing all kinds of things they shouldn't be doing. What if you just question your own beliefs? Always question your own beliefs. Okay, you might eventually come to accept them, some of them, but there are probably some that are unacceptable. There are probably some you shouldn't accept because they're not worthy of being accepted. And those beliefs should be left, should be dispensed with, because they're not actually useful to you. Okay, I hope that helps. Let's see. I see we have another one here. Power Drummer 53 has made a $10 donation and said, "Keep up the great work, Loren." Thank you so much. I appreciate the support, the contribution, and I appreciate the kind words as well. There of course, there are people who are going to disagree with anything anyone says. It doesn't matter what you say. I mean, I found this with the most absurd examples. You could make a simple statement that you believe is clear and factual, and if there's enough people, somebody will disagree with you. So first of all, I hope for each of you, I hope you get clear. Your job is not to make everyone happy. Okay, it's impossible. Some people are going to be miserable. Some people are going to disagree with you no matter what, no matter how much evidence you have. It doesn't matter. Okay, but I appreciate the acknowledgement because I'm doing the very best that I can. And that's all anyone can do. Okay, I'm using this pretty good instrument I've got up here. I'm using a lot of my time and energy and focus. And I've been committed to helping as many people as possible for most of my life. And I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let me keep on going down. I apologize if I'm skipping over your comments. I'm going to go to the super chats because I need to jump off of this call in just a couple minutes. If there's time, I'll go back and respond to them. Jamal Ibrahim has made a $50 contribution and said, "Hi, Loren, I finally got the chance to donate." Thank you so much. I remember now you've written to me and you've missed the live broadcasts and so hadn't been able to donate later on. I appreciate that very much. It's a very generous contribution. Question: my body weight has been steady between 130 and 135 pounds. I'm 5'10", 34 years of age. My body fat percentage is currently around 9.7%. Can I do a 21-day fast and at that low of a weight and body fat? Yes, you absolutely can. It's a great question and really important to understand. I mean, it's such an important issue because this comes up all the time. People are thinking, yeah, but I'm already so skinny, not me, but them. I'm already so skinny. Can I do this? Or maybe they're saying, I can't do this because I'm already too skinny. That's rarely the case. It is possible. Obviously, anorexics, people who are severely emaciated from maybe advanced cancer or AIDS or whatever it might be, it might be that you can't fast because in order to fast, you have to have fat reserves. But 9.7% body fat, that's more than I have. And I fasted, my body fat has been below that now on a consistent basis ever since I was probably 25 or 26. So I'm 59. That's 33, 34 years, something like that. I've been consistently in the range of 4 to 7%. I'm currently at the higher end of that, about 7%. But for many years, I ran 4 or 5% body fat. No problem fasting, as long as you know what you're doing. I mean, again, you can learn the hard way, but I wouldn't recommend that. You want to get it right. Yeah, you can definitely fast. You want to make sure that you're not losing more than necessary, but your body fat percentage and your weight is not an issue. Done correctly, you can definitely fast. I'd be very glad to help you. I'll remind everybody here, I think I said this earlier today on this broadcast perhaps, but I might be thinking of one of the many calls I had before that this morning. I've already spoken to many clients this morning. Guzelle, the woman who does my videos for me, I do the speaking. She does everything else, from setting up the camera to turning on the microphone, which we now use when we record usually, to editing the content and putting the titles, doing the whole thing, to actually putting it up on YouTube. She does all that for me, and it's a tremendous burden. It's tremendous off of my shoulders because that takes a lot of work. And I think she's doing a fantastic job. You can probably tell when she started working because the video quality went way up, right? And she just makes beautiful, beautiful videos, in my opinion. When she first came to me to fast, I believe it was 4 years ago. She's around 32 or 33, I think. So she would have been, 28, 29, somewhere in that range. She is 5'7", and she weighed 88 pounds. Okay, 88 pounds at 5'7". She fasted 21 days, did perfectly well, and has been a lot healthier ever since then. She's since fasted with me 2 more times, by the way. Right now, we only have 4, no one can get into the country right now. So we have 4 people fasting here right now. 4 clients, 2 of them are Costa Ricans. And Two of them are past clients who've both fasted with me twice before. Okay, and so they're both here. They were already in Costa Rica. In fact, one of them was volunteering here, and the other one had been volunteering here and then went off to do some other things, take some courses and workshops and visit some friends, and then she's now back and doing her third fast with me right now. That happens a lot. People keep doing this because it's an amazing experience here. Okay, and they love being here, so they keep on coming back. Anyway, you can fast. It's no problem. Let me know if you'd like my help. Do get guidance, okay? Don't attempt this on your own. It's far more dangerous, far less likely to be as successful that way. Okay, I hope that's helpful for you. Okay, let's see. So I see there's some other comments. JJ is there, yes. Michael Kyles, is that guy still fasting from his liver recording? His live recording. Okay, you're talking about some YouTube guy, I guess. Did you get positive results in passive fasting for hearing loss and tinnitus? So, okay, so hearing loss and yes, hearing loss. Congenital deafness, no. We've never seen that improve. People who are born deaf aren't likely to start hearing in my experience. I've worked with many deaf people, probably around 40 or 45. That's because we were located for the first several years right outside of Washington, D.C., where the only deaf university in the U.S. is located, Gallaudet University. We have a lot of deaf clients. I've actually been a speaker for various different deaf organizations. In fact, I was rated the best speaker. I got the highest ratings of any speaker ever by a big deaf organization that brought me in because so many of their deaf clients said, bring this guy in. And that's what happened. I wound up speaking for 2 or 3 big deaf organizations, including the largest traveling show. It would go to these major cities where there was a deaf population. It was called Deaf Nation. I don't know if they still do it. This was a long time ago. When I lived in the U.S., I've been in July. We celebrated 15 years here in Central America, and I am so happy. We now have more than 135 varieties of fruit on site. I wear flip-flops almost every single day of the year, and shorts more difficult. And it depends on the situation. This is usually evidence of something else going on. Okay, so we have to heal the underlying conditions. That happens sometimes, but not always. All right. Okay, so let's see. Paka has asked, can I fast when I don't eat optimally before a fast? Yes, you can. It would be smarter to spend 3 or 4 weeks eating optimally first. But if you don't have time or don't want to do that, it's not absolutely necessary. I have fasted many people who've been eating a normal conventional diet before the fast. It's more difficult, a little bit more uncomfortable, and it would be smarter to make better choices first. But again, my advice to you is don't fast more than 5 to 7 days without having experienced guidance. Okay? Have I fasted people with ADHD? Yes, absolutely. No question about it. Quite a few of them. And we invariably see massive improvement. In fact, about 2 years ago, year and a half, no, I take it back, just over a year ago, I believe, I had a woman here in her 30s with her 9-year-old daughter. ADHD was one of the daughter's issues. The daughter fasted 21 days and much better afterwards. You can see I have a video interview here on my YouTube channel with the two of them. There goes, who is that? Princess just came back over the roof and down the tree and into the apartment. So yeah, we've seen this many times. Hello there, Princess. You want to say hello to everybody? Hello, silly girl. Not on the keyboard, please. Okay. All right. How long does it take to balance the weight since the very start of the fruitarian diet? That's unfortunately, that's not an answerable question. What I mean is it's going to vary from person to person. It's going to be different for each person. There's no way for me to say this is how long it's going to take because it depends. Each person is in a different place, a different level of toxicity, different level of vitality, different weight level. There's so many different factors that I can't I can't answer that directly. Pac, I don't know if you heard me say this earlier, I can guide you via Skype, and there's a payment plan available. It doesn't have to be so much up front. You're going to do so much better with guidance and keep it safer, but I wouldn't encourage anyone to go any other way. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. It's a little bit longer than I had intended to go today. I hope this has been valuable for you. I see 26 of you have given it a thumbs up. If you think this is beneficial and valuable, and you're still here and haven't already given it a thumbs up, please do. If you believe as well, if you believe, thank you. I see someone just did. If you believe that this is valuable information that other people would also benefit from, there's a big jump all the way up to 33. Thanks, guys. If you haven't done it yet, again, if you like this, please do. If you think this is valuable for other people, consider sharing the link so that other people have a chance to check this out as well. Okay? And thanks to everyone who contributed. Thanks to all of you for being here. I will be back on Friday morning next week in English, back tomorrow morning in Spanish, 9 o'clock Costa Rica time. There might be another interim. I'm thinking maybe this week I'm going to do a live broadcast just talking about Las Cascadas, the community, the big intentional community and project that we're creating here. It's been a while since I've done that. And I think I'm going to do that sometime soon. So thanks everybody so much for your support. It's great to spend the time with you. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.